by the head coach of the Mooney boys basketball team, Carey Palermo. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Coach, no doubt successful season last year, and I was glad that I got to see some of that success towards the end of the year. And I mean, no doubt a great squad that you guys had last year. Obviously, some of the guys seniored out, but you are going to have some returners. Highlight some of those big playmakers that you expect to be on the roster this year, as well as some of those younger guys that you think are going to step up.
So the name that probably everyone knows, Mick Hergenrother, our point guard, the last 2 years. He'll be a senior this year. He averaged about 13, 14 points a game for us, led our team in assists. Unbelievable leader for us the last couple of years. We're going to lean on him to run our offense. And, he already was a big scorer, but we're going to, really put the ball in his hands a lot more than he has the last couple of years. Two other returning starters, guard Jack Pepperny. I think he was second on our team in three-point makes a season ago. His role is obviously going to expand. Drew Pecchia started at the 5 spot for us. He'll be a 2-year starter out the gate. He had a really, really good summer for us. Was more of a rebounder, screener in our office, great defender. We'll ask him to do a little bit more scoring and run some more offense through him. Some of our other returners that played, James Campbell played a lot of minutes for us last year. He started a couple games for us. He's a guy that's going to play huge minutes, and if we had a game tomorrow, he'd be starting for us. There's no doubt, and he's an unbelievable leader for us. Sorry, I'm in school right now. He'll be a big player that we're going to lean on. Jack Phillips had a great summer. He's about 6'3", 6'4" now. He's a starter on the football team. This will be his second full year healthy coming out for us. We'll really depend on him underneath for some size. Jack Desmond's another senior that we'll rely heavily on. I think he started a game last year, probably played 10, 12 minutes a game. Those 6 seniors returning, great teammates, great leaders. They're all really, really good in their roles, and all of their roles are going to have to expand this year. We have a junior, Jackson Mino, who really came on strong for us a year ago in the tournament. Played some huge minutes for us down the stretch. He's going to play huge minutes for us this year. Had a great summer. We have a senior that came back out. Devontae Miller was a heck of a football player for us the last couple of years. He's going to be in the mix at some point. Another junior, Nolan Radinsky, was a receiver on the football team. He's going to step up and have an opportunity to earn some minutes. We have a very talented sophomore class. I think it's our most talented class in our program. Some of those guys who are going to get a shot, and we actually have our first scrimmage tonight against Canton McKinley at home, and we're going to throw those guys to the fire and see how they respond. Mateo Fortuna is a guard for us who's going to have an opportunity to play on our wing and handle the ball. Jabri Carter, another really good shooter, ball handler. Ashton O'Brien had a big summer for us, the quarterback on the football team. Nick Pregabon, a 2-year starter on our soccer team. All these guys played JV for us last year. He'll have an opportunity for some serious minutes. Rocco Turner, all-state golfer. He can really shoot the basketball. He'll have an opportunity to fill some of that void scoring-wise. Will Desmond is another football player that we just got back out about a week ago. He'll have an opportunity to earn some minutes underneath. That kind of rounds out. I know I'm probably leaving a kid or two out, but I see us being a lot deeper than we were a year ago. And although we have a lot of experienced guys returning, there's really no in-between. Like, we don't have any guys that played a little bit of JV and a little bit of varsity. We either have returning varsity players or guys that are completely inexperienced. So I don't know if we'll have a set lineup every game. I don't know if we'll have a set rotation every game. I think there's going to be ups and downs to everyone, and we're just going to ride the guys who are playing great in practice, who are competing like hell in practice and giving great effort.
You said it. You're not going to really have a set rotation, especially I would imagine the first couple of weeks of the season when you're trying to figure out who's going to really be stepping up for you guys. What kind of things are you going to be looking for as the season goes on to decide who are going to be the 7 or 8 guys that you can really trust and rely on to be in that rotation late in the season and come tournament time?
So a big thing that we really preach to our kids is competing every day in practice. We want to make practices more competitive and harder than our games. And I think we started to learn how to do that as a program 2 years ago. And last year was, I don't want to say a culmination because you always want to keep getting better, but a lot of our success was a result of that, of what a practice was. With that being said, I don't know if you ever get to a set number of guys. Because like I'm saying, Jackson Mino, he didn't play much for us the first 10 games of the season. The last 7 or 8 regular season games, he got minutes here and there, but he played more the last 2 or 3 games in the tournament than he did the entire year. And we made that decision just based on how he was performing in practice. We just felt like he was one of our best 6 or 7 players and he needed to be on the floor. And I think that's going to be the same with everybody in our program. We pride ourselves on being one of the hardest working teams in the area. We tell our kids, as long as you compete every day and focus on our process, we're going to be better at the end of the year as opposed to at the beginning of the year. And that's only going to help us to tournament time. We want to be peaking and still ascending, in February and March. We don't want to be playing our best basketball November 30th. We want to be playing our best basketball, going into the tournament.
And, one of those guys that you talk about, McHurgan Rother, I've gotten the opportunity to see him, and I think one of the most impressive things he's able to do is passing out of that drive to that basket and really getting it to the guys on the outside. Talk to me about how influential it is to have that kind of point guard that's kind of your on-court coach, that you really know everything facilitated through him is going to go rather smoothly.
So it makes my job a lot easier. Mick does an unbelievable job of getting everybody involved in our offense. But what I don't think people realize is, like, when a play breaks down or our offense gets a little bit stagnant, he could go make a play. Whether it's him shooting the basketball, scoring the basketball, or getting somebody else involved. And he has a deep understanding for the game of basketball. He has a very, very high IQ. He's a kid that, he's going to play college basketball somewhere, and he wants to play college basketball. He's a kid that, he'll be in the gym 3 days a week at 6:30 in the morning with me, getting shots up, working on his game. When we're done with practice, he'll be at the Boardman Y or the Salem Wellness Center, still playing, working on his game. It just makes your whole team dynamic flow, your whole offense flow a lot better when you have a kid like that understands everything that we're expecting from every player, from our coaching staff, and he can relay that to the rest of our team.
Every coach that comes on, we try to ask them what they want to teach their kids in the program, what they want their kids to take away from being under their program. But I also want to know, what kind of things have your kids taught you as you're coaching them? Because I think great coaches kind of learn from their kids as much as they teach them. So not only do I want to know what kind of things you want to instill on your kids, what kind of things have you think your students and your players have taught you as a coach?
So, like, when I first took over at Cardinal Mooney 6 years ago, I had been assistant at Ursuline High School under Coach Gunther. I played for Coach Gunther, and he's one of the best coaches in the area, probably like all time. Like, you look at his wins, his district titles, when you say basketball and coaches in the Youngstown area, Coach Gunther's at the top of the list. And I have so much respect for him. Big thing he preached every day for us as players, coaches, whatever, was accountability. He holds every player to the same standard. Now, he understands, and I understand, that our players all have different skill level, different talent level, different learning curves. But accountability, whether it's being on time for practice, giving the best effort, being the best teammate, not wasting your talent, that stuff has to be the same every day. I think as a coach, the best thing I can do for my team is hold them accountable to a high standard every single day. And that's the only way I think any program can succeed. Now, as far as what I've learned from them, when I started coaching at Cardinal Mooney, I came from a program, very similar schools, very similar dynamics, but it's a different player you're coaching. Kids that come from a different background, a different how you view the game of basketball per se. And what they've made me understand is it's not, you can't look at the kids as like just as a numbers, as X's and O's. They may love the game of basketball. They may love being a part of the team more than they love the game of basketball. And the more you can understand more about each player individually, whether it's what's going on in their life, what they're interested in outside of basketball, how they operate every day in school, it's going to allow you to coach that player a lot better than if you're just looking at them as, pieces to a puzzle, because that's not how it works. I'm sure every coach in the area will tell you that they're more of like a psychologist than they are a coach. They're more of a organizer, fundraiser, whatever. The X's and O's part of coaching is the least important thing on the table. And that's probably the number one thing I've learned being at Cardinal Mooney. If I knew what I knew now as opposed to 6 years ago, I don't know if it would have translated in more wins, deeper run the tournament. I don't know how that would have worked. But I think our team would have been more together. I think we would have been more cohesive of a unit.
And looking at this team this year too, and I mean the schedule that you have put in front of you, I mean growth obviously is always a big point, and you talk about having a very talented sophomore class. We know that sophomore to junior year, that season in between, that transition is always a big one for development. Do you think the schedule that you have in front of you, as we know it's always scheduling up in tough schools, do you think that this is going to be beneficial for the development of those sophomores and getting this team ready to come tournament time?
Absolutely. And you can even go back to June. We took our kids over to the Canton-McKinley Summer League. We were playing in the Newcastle Summer League. So you're playing against, AAA schools in Western Pennsylvania, the Newcastles, Pittsburgh Central Catholics, Kennedy Catholics, Sharons, and whatnot. We were over at McKinley playing against them and the Glen Oaks, the high-level schools over there. But in our schedule, we play Ursuline twice, Cheney twice, Boardman twice, Fitch, Warren Hardings. We're in that D3 district. I think last year we played more Division I schools than the entire other 23 teams combined. We played more Division II schools than the entire, 23 Division III schools combined over there. So, this will definitely prepare our kids. We'll see what they're made of. The game's going to be sped up on them. They're going to play against some athletes. They're going to play against some great coaches, some great programs. And then hopefully when we get down to, the tournament time in our level, similar size schools, there won't be anything that they're surprised with.
Coach, before we let you go, we want to give you the chance to highlight your coaching staff, the people that are working with you, and the people that really help build this program and make it what it is.
So just going from top to bottom, my two varsity assistants, one is Ralph Naples. He's been with me my entire 6 years. I was an assistant coach when he was playing at Ursuline. He's more of like my defensive coordinator and whatnot. Jeff Shaheen, this will be his third year. And he has an unbelievable insight of like the players. He's definitely a player's coach. He's the guy getting these guys fired up every day, getting them juiced up before practice. He's more probably my offensive coordinator. And those two guys, they work hand in hand with our varsity team and in our entire program. All of our coaches go back and forth throughout the entire program. My head JV coach, Dupree Carter, this is his second year. He does a great job with our younger group. He more of a coach of our post players as opposed to like Ralph and Jeff, more work with our guards. His head assistant this year will be Jerron Howell, him and Jeff are former Cardinal Mooney high greats, and they'll let you know about it if you talk to them. He coached our freshman team the previous 2 years. He does a great job with younger kids. My two freshman coaches, John Mikos and Mark Phillips, it's kind of cool. This is their first year coaching. It's the first time I've been able to hire former players. They graduated from me 3 years ago. They were with my program the first 3 years. They were part of that growth, going from 5 wins to 8 wins to 10 wins and winning a tournament game. They're awesome. They know exactly what I expect and my coaching mannerisms, and they can do a great job of, letting the younger guys know what to expect when they get up to the JV varsity level.
Coach, my final question for you, being in that gym for that game against Waterloo where it was opened up a little bit, we were able to get a little bit more of a student section, and I know it was loud and rocking, and just that feeling of excitement was returned for a moment. How excited are you to have that student section and that Mooney faithful back in full force?
I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be a great experience for our kids. Like, going to play an Ursula Mooney game with a packed house with people standing 3 deep underneath the hoops. Or just even like a Tuesday night game, like, Tuesday night home game last year where there's 30 people in the stands. It's kind of awkward. And the kids did a great job last year of kind of generating their own energy and getting it going. But I'm excited for the kids for that, and I'm excited to have the people there. But I'm also a little bit nervous because, we only had last year one varsity, I should say that we only had one underclassman, Mick Hergenrother, that ever played in front of a crowd like that in a varsity game. So he's still the only guy that has played through like a packed house with that. So the rest of our team isn't used to that crowd. So I want to see how they respond to that. It's hard to simulate that in practice, hard to simulate that in scrimmages. And you guys saw that Waterloo game last year. That was a crazy game. I mean, there were technical fouls. There were, both teams were in foul trouble. They were probably a little bit too amped up because of that crowd because they weren't used to it. So I'm kind of interested to see how that works for our, what is it? 6 sophomores, 2 juniors, and then our 6 seniors that haven't been used to that. It's going to be interesting.
Coach, we're really interested too. We thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We look forward to covering you guys all season, and as the year goes on, we'll talk to you again real soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having us.